Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. All right. So we're kicking it off. This is our first live in the revamped Substack, What Feeds Us, and I'm so excited to have you here. And I really wanted to start from the beginning with basic knife skills. This is where, a lot of the resistance I think comes from is, the sharp stuff and feeling like this is just arduous, right? Like taking out an onion feels like a chore. And I really feel like this is a place worth investing our time just to free us up to make this feel easier. And I'm going to start off by just sharing that my wife, when we first met, really didn't have very good knife skills. She always was cutting herself, bleeding out in the kitchen. And I swear to God, like just with a little bit of work together and her just kind of absorbing my technique that I'm going to share with you today, she is just so fast. She moves through projects like butter, and that can be your reality too. So this is all about just, again, removing that friction, working faster, working clean, because we all have a lot going on, right? Especially cooking for kids on a Wednesday night. We might as well be fast, right, at cutting things. We have to be, all right? It's all about setting ourselves up for success. So I've got more than we need here in terms of knives. I'm going to walk through just the basics in terms of the tools themselves. A basic chef's knife. Okay, this is your go-to. You're going to use it constantly. This is a Misono, by the way, and I'll share links about some of my favorites I have before. I'll come back to them. This one I love, and this is, it's up to you if you need something with more length. I love having a longer knife, and I'll very often, even cutting garlic, I'll use a knife this long, just because I like having a longer blade, right? But generally, whatever you're comfortable with, and then a little paring knife. Very often you're gonna use a paring knife. I share this a lot in reels. This is the other knife that very often I take. This is a bird's beak knife, right? It's got this little edge. You cut towards yourself. This is like grandma style to me. I watched my grandma make mashed potatoes. She always had a paring knife and she would do it over the water, and slice it. And I feel like this is a kind of a dying skill using a knife like this. I use this for garlic and I'll show you this tonight. Okay, and then there's fillet knives. This is a flexible fillet knife that I use for seafood, and this is a less flexible boning knife that I use for chicken. And we'll definitely be diving into chicken as we go. Okay. This guy, if you want this around, this is great. This is your honing steel. This does not sharpen. I've actually got my Japanese stones here they're whetstones for actual sharpening. This doesn't sharpen your knife, it just kind of straightens the edge, right? Yeah, so in the moment it makes it feel sharper. But this is not actually gonna wear down metal to bring you back to a really good edge. But this is meant for just kind of in between tasks or when you don't have time to sharpen your knives. Okay. So we use this, by the way, your fingers underneath here, and you want to keep a consistent angle. Some people like to do it this way and feel more comfortable. The key here is that you're not kind of switching the angle, and that's it there. Okay. Okay. So my setup. So you see, I've got a towel with my knives here. I love just plopping a towel down, feeling kind of zen about the process. I like to have a bain-marie, or it's more likely that you have a ball jar lying around. I use like a metal bain-marie with hot water and a spoon, okay? Just having this little setup and your cutting board, if it's heavy enough that it's not going to move around, great. Otherwise, take a paper towel or a thin towel and wet it and plop this guy underneath your cutting board and it'll prevent it from moving around. Okay, we don't want moving targets while we're cutting, right? And that's something that you can teach your kids. Okay, I very often also have a little bench scrape around, right? Especially if you're cooking, a lot and you're doing a lot of knife work and you're scooping, instead of scooping with your knife that's slower and kind of going to a bowl or to a pan, a little flexible bench scrape is great, okay? I very often have a peeler handy because I'm peeling constantly, and that's our setup. Okay. So before we even cut anything, I want to practice the grip. If you're a righty, I'm speaking in righty terms, it's the offhand is the left hand. And you really want to practice what is called the claw. Okay. So the fingertips are against the board. If you've got long nails, this may be a little challenging. Okay. But either way, you want to dig in a little bit to your board and your middle knuckle right above your nail is what's actually going to come up into contact with your knife very often, okay? Doesn't mean that it always has to be there, right? But that's your guide. And all the other fingertips are behind that middle finger knuckle, okay? And from there, I would love for you to grab your knife, and I like to pinch right here. I kind of liken this to a volley grip if you're a tennis player, right? And this is where the knife is designed to actually be held and where it's kind of nice, like really neutral and balanced in your hand, okay? You don't want to be too far up here or just like, it's where it feels comfortable for you, okay? So you're gonna grab it here, and I want you to practice actually getting that finger, that knuckle right up against the knife, and I want you to come back and raise the blade a little bit, keeping the tip against the knife, and then I want you to rock forward. And I want you to get comfortable with that movement, right? Imagine there's a garlic clove here, right? And you're just gonna rock, okay? Knives like this, kind of Western style, although this is a Japanese knife, it's a Western style, it's round here, it's meant to rock, okay? Rock like that. Think a cleaver that does not have that rounded edge is more kind of up and down, right? Those are two different styles that we'll play around with while we're cutting, right? So boom, 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 all right? We can practice that all day long, all right? We might as well cut something. So one of my favorite things to practice with my kids, and even my 3-year-old starting to want to play around and have a knife in his hands, is mushrooms, right? Cremini mushrooms. And these guys they're so soft, it's an easy one for them to practice and move through. Speaking of which, when you take your mushrooms home like this, right? Very often they're super dirty, okay? So you could, yes, be very delicate and take a wet paper towel and clean them that way. But honestly, they're not going to absorb too much moisture. If they're really dirty, I like to just give them a rinse, okay? And then I'll lay them on a sheet pan, laying with a towel, just to kind of absorb excess moisture, okay? Like that. So then this mushroom, I would just obviously go through the whole thing. The only thing you need to remove, right, is just the little dried out end. Okay, that's it. In a button mushroom like this, the rest is usable. Sometimes I see people throwing away the stems. It's absurd, okay? If you wanted to remove the stem and do a stuffed mushroom or something, you could use this as a filling or save this for your stock, okay? Stocks and broth, okay? Which, by the way, I'm gonna grab a bowl. And as we go, we can accumulate things that we can save for, ends of celery and carrots and things like that we can use for stocks. Okay. All right. So mushroom wise, and again, this is a great one to practice with your kids. I'm gonna put the mushroom and I'm just gonna do a slice. Okay. So we practice that grip right like this, but now there's something that we actually need to touch, but we're going to keep that grip the same way, but we're going to get active with our fingers in the back, okay? So these fingers back here are these little like spider claws, I kind of call them, or spidey legs. Those are very active in keeping what you're cutting where you want them, okay? So I'm just holding my middle knuckles out, and I could slice like that and rock nice and thin, or a mushroom like this, or something that's elevated off the board. I like to actually do that down and forward method, okay? And I'm just going to go through, and that's the slice, okay? And then you've got just like nice, quick sliced mushrooms, okay? And as you expand your capacity and your feel for this, a mushroom's a great one. I'm going to, again, take the knob off this one. A mushroom's a great one to practice your speed, okay? And that's what you'll be able to, once you get really locked in with what this feels like, you're going to trust yourself and be able to just hammer right through, okay? Nice and thin, okay?
Oz, we have someone in the waiting room.
Awesome.
I'm gonna say hi to Catherine.
Hey, Catherine, welcome.
Hi, Catherine. I see your cat there. We're doing a cutting lesson right now, so we're in the heat of it, heat of the chopping. I'm finding it very informative. This is my weakest link for cooking. It's like, how can people do this?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks so complicated.
So one of the things that I didn't mention, thinking now that I took out my towel, is I like to have a dry towel handy. Hi, Catherine, welcome.
Hi, Catherine.
Thank you for joining us.
Now, while you're here, do you mind unmuting? Do you know how to chop things? How's your chopping skills?
My chopping skills are slow.
Yep.
Okay. What do
We're
you know why they're, because are you careful, or like why would you say they're low?
Um, I'm careful and I'm trying to do it right.
Got it. Okay.
Perfectionist here.
Oh, I'm with you. I want to say that right for you is what works for you and what feels good and what, I was just mentioning how I grew up watching my mom and my grandma. They didn't cut things on a board. They were always using a paring knife and just cutting things with their hands. I feel like it's kind of old school and it's a skill that we're losing. And I think that's super valid. You don't
Mhm.
have to do it my way or this way. Do what works for you, right?
Okay.
Whatever gets you excited and feels good in the kitchen, right? So we just got started by slicing some mushrooms and kind of warming up into the task. And you'll have a recording, Catherine, of this, so don't
Yes,
like you need to absorb it
I
all.
know that. I know that. Thank you.
Okay, so then we're gonna dive right in to the fire and we're gonna get into an onion. All right. And I know this just is, I think what slows a lot of people down is the onions. All right. So what I like to do is just take each end off. You could do this if you wanted more carefully and have less waste, but I actually use these in stock. So I'm gonna keep this guy separate right there. So I've got both ends off, right? And then if you wanted to keep it whole, you would use your paring knife. I'll just do two and carefully peel like this. And the interesting thing about onions, sometimes you have to go 2 layers deep, depending. This one has a nice, easy peel happening. So this is a gorgeous onion, actually. Really nice. All right. And that's all we do there. Again, you can save that outer layer for stock. Maybe not red onions. If you're going to do a darker stock, would work well. And that's one way to do it. Otherwise, you could let's do a white onion. Again, I'm going to take out each end and I'm going to cut it right down the middle. And cutting it right down the middle is very often what I'll do. And then it's just really fast to peel with your hands. Boom. White onions, I love raw. The classic white onion dice on a taco bar to serve, on the table as an option. That nice kind of sweet and sharp bite is a game changer. Okay. So that's the two different ways. There's the whole and there are the two halves. And very often I'm doing the two halves anyways, because almost always I'm cutting from a half, right? But sometimes you want the rings, and maybe you're on a mandolin slicing whole rings because whole rings just look amazing in dishes, right? Or maybe you want to pickle, or ferment whole rings, and it just like looks so nice. Or you're just cutting for a burger or something like that. In which case, you could just do nice and thin slices like that. And of course, that's really valid, right? I'm just gonna pop these on this plate and put it aside, but I really want to work on approaching these two halves, both in a dice and a julienne. Okay, so the julienne is one of my go-tos. Very often, I just like seeing the different texture and I like seeing the length of an onion. Even in like a bolognese that usually is diced, I very often will just leave it and kind of texturally, I just think it's interesting. So with the grain of the onion, so you can see the lines going this way. With the grain, I'm going to cut with the grain. Against the grain would be like this, okay? I like it this way. You can do it the other way as well, okay? And I'm going to take my time here and I'm going to actually follow the contours of the onion and I'm going to go down and forward. Notice how I'm bringing the onion closer to me. You can always remember, you put the thing that you're cutting where you want, okay? You're in control. I'm going down and forward, down and forward, down and forward until I get to halfway, okay? And then I'm just going to knock it on its flat side again. You can see I'm holding on like this with my back fingers, down and forward like that. And I'm going to take my time and go a little slower towards the end. And I kind of adjust my grip towards the end. I'm careful not to cut myself, and that's it. Okay.
And Catherine, if you have questions, you chime in anytime. You're getting the VIP treatment right now.
So there you go with just a nice thin slice of the onion. Okay, I'm gonna get another plate. I have to give a shout out to my friends at Heath Ceramics, these unbelievable plates. Every time I pick them up, I'm like, wow, it's so different having a nice plate. Okay, so onions down, a little scoop. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. This is a sharp onion. Okay, so now we're gonna do a dice, all right? So breathe with me here. You can do this, okay? I'm going to do a nice small dice, right? And there's real virtue in just taking our time and getting really good at this, okay? So I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go against the grain and I'm going to cut down and towards myself. And I'm using that knuckle as a guide, okay? Taking my time. I'm going to try not to cry with this onion. And this is the way I like to do it. Just it kind of stays better, stays together really nicely. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to go across. And this is actually not the, I'll do it one more time and I'll show you the way I was taught in culinary school. I like this way better. And I'm taking my time holding on to each end with my fingers. I'm going down and forward, same as we were doing before, but I've set myself up for this gorgeous small dice. And towards the end, it's going to be kind of hard to get perfect. So very often that last bit, I'll do kind of more messy or save for my stuff. Okay. But if I was going to do it messy, I would just kind of do it more rustically. But very often I'm catering or doing a dinner or in a restaurant setting, I want consistency. So I wouldn't add this to the pile. But the bigger ones, I'm going to save and actually saute onions with it later or saute mushrooms. So look at this beautiful, beautiful small dice. Really, really elegant and nice. Okay. So these two cut side by side, as you can imagine, whatever you're cutting, and even if this feels fancy, guys, this matters with what you're cooking and being able to do this fast. If it's not as fine when you're cutting it, who cares? But I want you to be able to know that you can do this. Okay. So there's our julienne and our dice. Okay. It does add a layer of refinement and it kind of melts into, like, let's just say you're doing some ground beef quickly for a taco, or bison or whatever it is. It just kind of melts nicely into the meat. Instead of having those kind of more aggressive, separate big chunks. It's an elegance definitely in having a finer cut. Okay, so we've done that. We've done the julienne, we've done the dice. I think it's probably a good thing to move on and just keep ourselves rolling and work on garlic. Okay. Not surprised, we're going from onion to garlic, two things that I almost am always using, literally almost every meal. I'm just gonna grab my kind of compost bowl and scrap bowl. So I like to just kind of like rub off excess paper, okay? Free up a clove. So this is where I love and I always have this knife around. Catherine, do you have one of these? Or Ashley, do you have one of these knives? Or have you ever
Yes, but
used
I didn't
one?
know what it was for.
Yeah, so
I
this is
just go stabbing things with it, like all the food.
Yeah, a bird's beak knife, okay? And sometimes, when I'm training a new cook or in my past life in the restaurant setting, many had never seen this before as well. Or if someone's helping me in the kitchen for an event or in the schools, people have never seen this, and it's amazing to me. So cutting towards yourself, okay? So that beak, right? The bird's beak is kind of towards yourself, and you use your thumb, you're kind of pushing into whatever you're cutting with that thumb. Once you practice this, you're going to get it. And you just kind of stop yourself before you get to your skin, okay? So each end, this is how I like to do garlic. I cut off each end, and then this nice little tip just helps me get into the garlic. And look how easily it just comes out, right? Every garlic varietal is different, and they breed them now for like easy peeling, right? But having that little tip to kind of get in and create separation, look how nice and clean. So then I like to take the garlic, guys, all right? And I like to go right down the middle, and I'm cutting towards myself, and I'm going to free up that inside germ, right? This little green guy right here. All right. I don't want that in there. Personally, especially once it turns green, it looks unsightly cutting through the whole thing and see, it looks like old garlic, right? And apparently, I was taught by another chef. that it's hard to digest. It's not good or it's kind of messes with digestion. So now this is how I approach garlic. I've got my two sides where I've taken that inner germ out, and I'm set up now to do what I want with this garlic, all right? So what I'm going to do here is well, first let's slice that garlic, and this is another great one to practice. I personally, I really like sliced garlic in dishes, even more than a dice, right? If you notice, I didn't smash the garlic and then peel it, right? Which is very often what people like to do. It's okay to do that if you're going to cook the garlic, right? But if you're prepping your garlic and you're going to store that garlic raw in the fridge, it's going to stink, right? It's going to absolutely be wretched almost immediately. You just bruise this garlic and it's going to get that funky, like just nasty garlic smell, right? If you're going to serve it raw, definitely don't do that, right? Or if you're going to clean it in advance. I prefer to do it that way. So from here, this is a great thing to practice. By the way, I've got my damp towel here that I failed to mention at the beginning. Damp towel always to kind of wipe down your knife and wipe down the area around you is really a good friend. So flat side down, I'm going to just do a nice, elegant rocking of the knife. Take my time and just slice really, really thin. And I'm telling you, I just can't say it enough. Like this adds such amazing flavor. Cut that way, right? It also looks really nice. Somehow it looks just like more elegant, right? Okay, and this is just what I do. This is what I do for my kids as well. Now we're gonna make a quick paste. You could, if I have it handy, you could make a paste in a mortar and pestle, okay? Very often I'm making one garlic worth of paste, and it's just hard to justify taking out a super heavy mortar and pestle for one. But if you're cooking a lot, or if you're doing a big batch of something that needs 10 cloves, grab a mortar and pestle. It works amazing, right? If not, I want you to be able to do this. So flat side down, your knife, the blade is away from you. You're going to get it towards the thicker part and just give it a good smash with your palm. Okay, so you've really just now bruised the garlic, right? Then you're going to get some salt. This is some Redmond's real salt. My good friends up in Utah, unbelievable salt. And I'm just going to cut through it quickly again, just to get that quick mince, right? And then I'm going to take that mince, again, with the blade away from me, I'm going to pull basically with the knife into the board and smash it into a paste, okay? I try to keep it in like one part of the board so I don't make the board too garlicky because I have done this and then cut apples and forgotten. Like, oh, why does my apple garlicky? But the salting of this is going to act as an abrasive, but it's also, if I'm going to serve this raw, which I'm going to do in a yogurt sauce in a little bit, it's really going to mellow out the potency of the garlic. And it's just going to be a lot more, again, I use the word a lot, elegant, right? It's not going to be like, oh, garlicky, right? It's going to be just kind of, it's going to add that boost of just like zing that very often it's there and you don't even necessarily notice why, okay? So that's garlic paste. I'm actually going to put in a little bowl to set up for later for yogurt dip that we're going to make, okay? And wipe this down. This is a good chance to wipe down our board. So now we've gotten through a slice of garlic. I really want you to practice this one. Looks like we have someone else joining. And this paste, okay? It's a great one to practice. And you can
I
just,
don't see that. What do you see?
I saw somebody wanted to pop in, but maybe they just came and left.
Yeah, because I didn't see them.
Um,
Catherine, let us know if you have any questions. I'll keep a close eye.
okay. Well, let me close this.
Or if you have a specific question. I have a question about knife sharpening at the end, but continue.
Okay, just one second. I'm gonna grab a carrot next, actually, quickly.
Catherine, I like your cat. I have a cat myself. His name is Georgie. He's very cute and squishable. Hold on. I'm actually going to show you. One sec. I'm screen sharing. Okay, one sec. Ready? This is my cat, Georgie. You see him?
Yeah.
He has his own Instagram because he travels with me. Sorry, Aaron. I was just showing Barb, my cat Georgie. This is Georgie. So, anyways, sorry for distracting from
Yeah.
the knife.
So carrots. Let's do this carrots next. All right. Carrots, this is how I like to peel. I'm gonna tidy up just a little bit because there's so many knives here. This is not, I like to have a nice clean environment. Even for teaching, it's like it'll throw me off if there's too much stuff, right? Definitely throws me off if I'm trying to make dinner for my kids. Okay, so carrot, Swiss peeler, Swiss style. These are made by Kuhn Recon. It's like a few bucks for these on Amazon. It's still my favorite peeler. Okay. And I like to hold and go towards myself and just move the carrot as we go. This is a big carrot. Even though this is organic, this is like a big fat one. Okay. All right. That can go into the compost. And then we're just going to take the dried off end there from where it was picked, the other end back in the compost here, and now you've got your peeled carrot. Now, if, guys, if you've got a beautiful local carrot that has that kind of fresh skin, like you don't have to necessarily peel it, right? I just like give them a nice wash and they look awesome, without peeling. If it's the store-bought organics, it's like it's from California, it's a little older. I'd just like to peel it. I think it's unsightly. If it's that kind of store-bought varietal. And that's the reality for most of us, right? Especially seasonally. Like the fresh local carrots are only popping up for that brief window. All right. So I want to show you a few different things with the carrot. All right. First, I want to show you how to julienne. All right. Underused, underappreciated. It just is so elegant, right? And the kids, there's something about a thin julienne that everyone loves it. Kids, adults alike. When something is like in those nice matchsticks, like a little salad of something, it's like really hard not to want it for some reason, right? We're eating very often with our eyes, okay? Now you can do this two ways, and I'll just show you both ways actually. So you could cut your carrot like this, and you can save the large side for your julienne, and you're gonna cut and you're gonna square off the carrot. So you're cutting one side, square off, meaning you're just flat, you're making nice, even flat sides, right? Now these we can play with separately or save. We can maybe do a little crudité, and now you've got your big rectangle of carrot here. Now from here you could do really big batons, right, for your crudité or for like a large dice, or you can take your time.
What is a crudité, please?
Like your raw veggie dip, like platter with dips and things like that.
Okay, Meghan Markle always uses that word, but nobody knows what it means.
Crudité, yeah. Or I jokingly call it crudites because it's spelled like that. So now we're making these planks, okay? And for here, you're going that down and forward. And this is all about trust. You're going down and forward, down and forward, down and forward, okay? So then you're basically kind of creating a deck of cards. And how thin you want the end product is how thick each card is, essentially, right? So these aren't like super thin. They're just kind of more important that they're even, right? And then you're going to line up. You don't have to do all of them. Line up what feels comfortable. There's three here. And I'm creating a stack of these cards. I'm going to go down and forward again. Okay. And this looks like your more traditional julienne, okay? Or these like matchsticks, right? They're kind of 1/4 inch by like 2.5 inches or so, okay? Now, another way I like to do this is to take the whole carrot and just at an angle, just kind of rustically go at it and create that deck of cards just with less precision, right? They're kind of different and uneven. And then I'm just going to rustically kind of line them up. And I'm going to just kind of work my way through and keep on moving through. And this one's a fun one to practice. I'll never forget one of my chefs in culinary school 20 years ago now up in Vermont did it this way. And my mind was blown. It's just so fast. And if you're doing this at volume, you need faster, right? So then look how thin and gorgeous that is. And this is what I would do if I were going to make like a fresh spring roll or something like that. You really want that really thin. But this as a salad with like, let's say some plumped raisins or something like that and some spice and some herbs is amazing. If you don't want to go to these lengths to do this, you could always kind of hammer these through a food processor with the grater attachment, but then it's going to look grated, right? And it's definitely going to be more muted a color. By doing it this way, we're going to preserve that beautiful, fresh, vibrant color as well. Okay. So that's the julienne of a carrot. I come back to this time and time again, both for my kids and kids in the school lunch programs that I've cooked for. Anything that's julienne like this, even if it's a little bit as a garnish, guys, really, really is. It's almost like a special offering because it looks like it took care, you know? And maybe that's what it is. That kind of is vibing there. All right. I want to show you another thing you can do with your carrots. I'm going to peel another one. I'm going to get a sip of water because my mouth is a little dry. I'm going to peel another one. Notice how quick, by the way, you can get through your carrots into the compost bowl or your stock bowl. You could use these for stock as well, just you want to add it at the very end, right? Let me just get some water. Okay, next class, I think I'm going to drink a matcha for the fun of it. Okay, so each end is off. In the compost. I want to teach you a roll cut. Okay, this almost no one's doing this, right? So you ever get like a beef stew somewhere and it's got a kind of an interesting, like oblong, like kind of rough shapes, right? And random shapes. That's by taking the carrot or whatever it is, whatever the veg, and kind of turning it a bit, a few degrees as you're cutting. There's something about this that just looks so pleasant when it's in either it's really appropriate for kind of like a braise or a stew. Okay. And you're just going to kind of keep on going through. I like to do this especially with the shorter half of the carrot. And then look how pretty kind of these different shapes are, right? You can imagine this in like a lamb stew, right? Over delicious creamy mashed potatoes, right? Really nice. And that's our roll cut. I'm going to try to put everything together over here, and I'll try to remember to get a good picture of different cuts and things. Okay. I mean, there are a million things we could do. Again, or we could take our julienne, and let me actually take a few of these from our first julienne, and from here, you guys are literally getting week one in culinary school here. From here, you line up your matchsticks, and you're going to create a brunoise. I think it's not brunoise. I never know how to pronounce French words. French is not my my expertise. Okay, so but you're gonna line up those matchsticks. You're gonna get these fingertips lined up, and you're just gonna go across. Okay, and then you're gonna have your brunoise. And the same idea, right? This elegance. This is like the time that we took for our small dice of an onion. I worked in one restaurant in New York for a couple months as a sous chef called Il Buco. I actually left because I was dating my now wife at the time, and I didn't see her all day long. And part of it is because we took lots of time on things like this. We made a confit of mirepoix, carrots, onion, celery, and then we would cover it in olive oil and gently cook it. And we would use that to finish braises and sugos and things like that. It was just so delicious, like such an amazing addition. But look how elegant, the little dice of carrot, right?
Catherine and I both think that's elegant. We're shaking our head. Like I see
Yeah,
Catherine's head.
so,
She's
so nice. So like, juxtapose this with the celery that we can do the same thing with the celery. Okay. Which
Catherine, next time I'm going to be following up to make sure you did this technique.
I'm not cooking in here
Okay.
right now.
No, but I mean, next time we meet, if you come back,
Okay.
I'm going to be following up
Okay.
and asking you if you use this technique.
I will have used some of them. I am absolutely sure.
so in culinary school, we had an exam in class, and the our chef instructor came around with a ruler and actually measured our cuts. He would measure our julienne and things like that. It was wild. But it makes you good, right? It's not like that in our home. No one's coming to measure your cut. So just, do the best you can and have fun with it. Okay, celery. Let's move on to celery. Same idea. Grab a couple stalks here. So celery, let me move this out a little bit so you have a more of a clear view here. It's my wet cloth. I want this to look just, there we go, it's better. So I like to cut off the white part here. I'm making stock every week. So I love to save this for stock, okay? For broth. The dried out end, you might want to actually just, put in compost or toss, okay? And then I like to work with, manageable, just like the carrot, we're going to work with manageable, very often with celery, you're creating thirds, basically. You're cutting it into thirds. Now, you could leave these whole and do like fun, ants on a log stuff for your kids if they like that kind of thing. But I like to do this in thirds this way to get a small dice. I'm just going to show you that. Or even fourth, right? Same idea. And then you can go do a small dice this way, just like the carrot, but not as small. I can show you how to do that really small if you wanted. And that's how you can quickly set up a nice small dice of celery, also for things like, your bolognese and ragouts or sautés or whatever, right? If you wanted to do matchsticks, this is the way I like to do that. And you can do this on a mandolin even. I like to take this way and go and make two incisions that way. Then I've created basically, again, our deck of cards theme. And then you can go nice and thin like that. If your celery is a little older, you could definitely peel it. I know people that like to peel their celery. And then I'm going through the other half and just trying to match the thickness, you can see, of the rest. So there's kind of a julienne, a long one of celery. And then again, you could do a finer, really take your time and get a nice fine dice or brunoise of our celery. Okay. And like that's gonna go right next to our carrot and look how nice and elegant that celery is, right? So for a saute, amazing. Okay. Or of course, you could line up your celery and you can do a couple at a time, right? And just do a nice kind of bias. A bias meaning instead of going straight across, you kind of turn your knife at an angle to create that nice, well, bias cut, right? This is how I would approach things like a stir fry, right? Like a beef stir fry, which would love to have celery. Beef and celery, by the way, are awesome together. I used to go to a dumpling house in Chinatown in Boston, and I would get beef and celery dumplings, and I just love them. So there's our nice slice. And there's just something really cool about seeing the angle. It just creates more dynamic and a little more length, right? That looks really nice in dishes. Okay, there's our celery. Okay, I want to move on to peppers. We're at about 45. Okay, so peppers. Just 1 second. Just grab. Okay. This is how I like to attack a pepper. All right. Bell pepper like this, beautiful organic peppers. I don't know if you're near Whole Foods, but I think the best deal on peppers is the bag of organic rainbow peppers. Are you not near Whole Foods, Catherine? Where are you based out of?
A small, very small town in Vermont.
Oh, cool. I went to New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier.
Okay. If you go down Route 302 to Route 25, that'll put you fairly near.
Awesome, awesome. But I grew up in Massachusetts, actually, in Worcester.
Uh,
Okay, awesome. All right, so pepper. I'm gonna go right down one half, kind of closer to the edge, so I can naturally remove that white, right? So you can see how there's not that much white. The white is just not, it's kind of unsightly. It's not that it's bad, it's just a little unsightly, right? Again, we want that elegance. And again, if we're cooking for someone else or our kids, it's like little noticeable things, right? Doesn't mean that this is necessarily waste. It tastes fine, right? If you feel like you cut off more than you needed to and you want to save, you can take your little bird's beak or your paring knife, doesn't have to be the bird's beak, and just cut around. And look how much pepper we avoid throwing away, right? But then you've got the seed pocket intact, and that can go into a compost or garbage. Okay? All right. So,
My understanding,
sure.
at least with hot peppers, is that the seeds and the white part are where the heat is.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely some heat, of course, still in the pepper, but a
Hmm.
lot of it is in the seeds. Absolutely.
But a lot of it is there.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so from here, again, this is a nice one to practice. You know, a sharp knife will go through the skin side, but it's much easier to get through when you go the inside exposed. And then I'm just going to do a nice thin julienne of our pepper. Again, alongside that idea with our celery, same idea, adds that nice elegance, right? So here's nice slices of pepper. But for things like the crudité that we're gonna enjoy in a second, we want bigger. Just go ahead and make bigger slices like that. If you want to remove, once you expose it, the white part, you can, or snack on it. And then just do nice bigger cuts like that. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And that's how quick you can work through a pepper. Okay. Sorry, the bottom part, I'll do the same thing. It's going to look a little different. Very often the bottom part is what I'll dice or just snack on myself, right? For consistency purposes. It's a little bit more here. And that's how quickly you can work through a pepper. Peppers are a great one to practice. It also is a good little test to see how sharp your knife is. Like if you're not going through very easily the skin of a pepper, it'll reveal itself that you need to spend a little bit of time sharpening or bring it to a sharpener. Okay. Now, so that's a lot. I know that's a lot at once here. Breathe with me and know that just you can compartmentalize all of this, right? But it all comes back to the very beginning. The first 5 minutes of this class are the most important. Paying attention to the grip and the offhand, and just also making sure that you're comfortable, with your knife and that you like your knife and that you enjoy using it. Maybe it's time for a new knife that's sharper that you love, right? A dull knife is going to be so frustrating, just so frustrating, right? And we can work on that. I can guide you there. So from here, some kind of off the beaten path things in terms of knife skills, herbs. So I purposely left it in the plastic because this is how very often we're taking it home. And I've shared this in a reel. I immediately like to take the rubber band off because it's strangling. Like it's just strangling. I still don't understand why we haven't come up with a better invention for this, right? So immediately you can save this bag if you wanted to, right? If you wanted to clean this and put it back, let me just get a big bowl here. I'm actually gonna get a big, big bowl. The ideal way to clean this, because you don't know how much dirt or grit is on this. Like that might have been kicked up. Maybe it was picked after a rain that where a lot of dirt was kind of, plopped, all the different factors. Sometimes it's pristine and super clean, right? But it's not, well, maybe it's from your backyard and you're okay with a little bit of dirt, but you're going to want to clean it, right? So I'm going to fill up a bowl. I'm going to plop this right in. You could pick through this and pick off the stems. I actually use the stems in all kinds of dishes, but I'm going to get this in. I'm going to just kind of move the parsley around with this big bowl of water. This is the best way to get dirt off, and you want to make sure there's enough water so there's kind of space between the bottom and whatever it is that you're washing.
Whenever I eat tabbouleh,
Say again?
whenever I eat tabbouleh, I get a crunch of a rock in my
Yeah,
tabbouleh always.
right? Yeah. So this is the proper technique. And you want to agitate with your fingers. My kids love to do this. I wanted them to be a part of this, but they wanted to go out and play. Can't make them do it. Okay, so in. Now, by moving it around, then the dirt's just going to settle at the bottom. Okay? Now, for getting this out, we're going to grab right here, right in front of me, a salad spinner. I think also an underused and underappreciated thing. Now, this is long parsley, so I'm actually so you're gonna take out whatever it is that you just washed, okay? This was pretty clean. I like to just shake it out over the sink. Now, if you wanted to, you could store this now damp and take it into a towel. It would store actually really nicely like this if you wanted. If let's just say, oh my God, I'm in a rush, I can't spin it right now. I'm just gonna wrap it up and pop it back into the bag and into the fridge, right? But I'm gonna take it through the whole process. Because ideally, because these stems are so long, guys, I'm gonna cut off the end to make it work in this peeler. I'm gonna save all these. This would be great pureed in a food processor with garlic and lemon as a marinade for, let's say, just this weekend. I made a huge pasture-raised pork shoulder. Garlic, cilantro, or parsley would work great. A little bit of chicken stock and lemon, and it was like unbelievable, unbelievable. Cooked for like 7 hours, really slow. Okay, parsley in. All right. Again, for the kiddos, they love this is more. I would do this in half and half actually, just to kind of do it properly. My kid loves this kind of salad spinner because it's like the lawnmower starting, right? And you can just pull it. Pull, and all that, it's going to force the water out, okay? And then you've got all that excess water that could have been in your dish, right? Is out, all right? So from here, this is one case potentially if like for plastics, because it's nice to have things that aren't gonna, be disturbed by like, the plastic's not gonna leach into something like this. And it's nice to have some light things, but you can go into a Pyrex or a plastic bin like that. And I like to kind of give it either a towel. I admit I abuse paper towels. It's like a habit from my kitchen days of constant washing my hands. If they're around, I will use them. I'm working on it though. More towels, right? So into your Pyrex and then cover, and your herbs are ready to rock. This is again the idea of removing friction between like where you are in a given moment to you cooking dinner for yourself or your family, right? So this being done and being ready in the fridge and being preserved really well because it's going to stay like this will stay for a week and be beautiful because it's clean. We've given it this beautiful bed. We've put it to sleep like a baby. Like we've nurtured this parsley. It's ready to just get used all week long. Okay. So very often what I'll do is I'll have parsley and cilantro home from the store or fresh dill and I'll treat them all well. I'll line them up in a big Pyrex like this. And then I've got my herb Pyrex basically ready at all times. Okay. Really a game changer. Same thing you could do. You could be prepping things like scallions, right? These just happen to be stunning from my friends at Solid Lamb Farms, a local farm in Wimberley, Texas. These are absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to show you how I like to clean these quickly. I'm just kind of like rolling through. We could do this all day. So this part, and when you get your scallion at home, there's always kind of like a dried out layer of skin here, right? This doesn't even have it, so I don't even need to remove it. So we're just taking off this little end right here. And at the top, it's just anything that's like kind of wilted. This is so fresh. We just picked it I just picked this up last night. That doesn't even have that. But you might want to just take off the end, okay? But that's all there is to do with the scallion. And I would maybe just have this and store it like this, but I want to show you how I like to deal with the scallion. So this is so long, I'm going to cut it into thirds. And I use both green and white. And I'm going to, again, with a bias, just go through it like this and do really nice thin. This is where you really want a sharp knife, guys, with your scallions and chives, because you're really going to beat it up if you don't, okay? But I'm telling you, like a fresh scallion garnish is such a game changer on so many dishes. Got so much stuff going on here now that I'm.
How often do we want to be sharpening our knives?
Well, that depends on how well you're using or how often you're using them and, kind of how you're using them. Like if you're, let's just say, like using your poultry knife and butchering a lot of chickens and it's going up against bone and it's like it'll dull pretty fast. but the quality of the knife and its ability to retain the edge is also a major factor, right? So a really good knife, like this knife, I haven't sharpened in a long time, and it's still hammering through. It could use some love, right? And I'll show you quickly at the end how to do that, okay? But look how nice. Look at our beautiful scallion. My gosh. Like I get really excited about fresh scallions on pretty much almost anything savory. It doesn't really ever get old. Okay, lastly, I want to show you how to chiffonade the parsley that we just cleaned and put away. And then I know we're getting towards our time and I wanted to keep it in our hour. So I'm going to show you. We'll wrap it up by doing a little lemon
The big
parsley.
reveal dip, isn't it the dip or
Yes,
something?
yes,
The
I'm gonna
yolk.
add this parsley that I'm about to make, and we're gonna make a quick yogurt dip at the end. Okay, so we're just gonna basically kind of shove this parsley together into this like bundle and keep it together. And I'm just gonna inch my way right through. And parsley's a hardy one, right? So you can kind of hammer it a little bit and it'll stay pretty nice. But more delicate herbs, things like basil that will blacken or mint or cilantro that will blacken more easily, you want to be more delicate. So you can do another pass through and get a nice, consistent, finer chop after that chiffonade. That's up to you. Okay. And then we've got our nice parsley. I'm going to add that to our beautiful bowl from my friends at Heath. Again, I'm not going to stop talking about them because I love these bowls. All right. I'm going to grab a lemon and juice just a little bit of lemon. Even though yogurt has that tartness, I love adding that beautiful citrus zing to it. Some lemon, okay. A little seed went in there. Some of my Redmond's real salt. We want to season this, right? Some Strauss organic Greek yogurt. I really like this Greek yogurt. My elder son is pretty much obsessed with Greek yogurt. I've got my spoon from my Bane. I like to just pat it dry, the spoon, by the way, when I'm coming out of the water. And then look how quickly, and this is, if I'm doing a dip, Greek yogurt just makes a lot of sense to get that nice thickness. And then lastly, which is maybe not so intuitive, a little bit of olive oil, just a little. In a creamy sauce, like using sour cream or yogurt, it's something weird and magical that happens when you add some olive oil. And you're not going to know it's there because it's going to emulsify with everything else in there. So you're not going to see it, right? Even though you're welcome to garnish afterwards. So now we've got a quick herb Greek yogurt. It's going to be really interesting and delicious because we added that smashed garlic. So this is the bowl that I put the smashed garlic in. Some nice
I have
crab
a
would
question.
be really good, of course. Some spices if you want. I like that.
Yes, what,
Say
oh,
again?
sorry, Catherine, you
I
go.
have a question.
Yep.
I have some regular um, yogurt,
Yep.
plain yogurt, obviously. Would I be able to do that with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll just be a little thinner, but absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So now we got this beautiful yogurt. I'm gonna taste. Mm. I mean, it's delicious. It's just really, really delicious. And then you could just, but whenever you're tasting for yourself or guests, you always want to taste with what you're serving it with to really know, okay, does this need a little more lemon, little more salt, less salt? I'm gonna taste it with pepper. I mean, really, really good. Like really good. I don't make this very often at all, but I'm always making yogurt sauces, but just for crudité, super good. So from here, just as an example, like this is a great one to plop out. Maybe you're just like looking to buy some time before dinner is ready and your kids are or your guests are coming at you, or you're just really hungry yourself, right? Just the ability to grab something like this, and I'm just gonna do some celery as well. Cucumbers would be, of course, great. And we'll be, working on a million different things that you could put out with a crudité like that. And you've got a nice board ready with your yogurt dip, okay? Fresh dill would really be awesome here as well. Go ahead, Catherine.
So the dip is, I'm trying to point at it, which, so the dip is the clove of garlic, the parsley
Yep.
chopped up, and the
And lemon.
yogurt
Yep. Lemon and
and
a little
the
olive oil.
olive oil,
Yep.
and
That's it.
that's it. Oh, and a
That's
little
it.
bit of salt, I think you put in.
Yeah, pinch of salt. It could be pepper, any herbs. Fresh dill would be amazing here. You could put 5 different herbs in this together, right? Fresh dill, parsley, cilantro be all welcome. Tarragon would be really interesting. You could mix and match. You could put spices in here. It's just this is a base, simple example of just how quickly you can have a
Hmm.
yummy dip, right? Dip slash like this could be, for just so many. It could be a sauce. It could be thinned out a little bit, right? I actually made a dressing over the weekend and thinned it out with a little bit of whey that I get
Okay.
whey to drink, like from cheese making. Thinned it out. It was tart and amazing. It was almost kind of like a ranch dressing, like a really delicious ranch dressing. You could thin it out with lemon juice, water, vinegar, and then you could have a thinner dressing. But yeah, that's that pretty
That
much.
was incredible.
Cool.
Catherine, how did you hear about this?
Um,
Are you on Instagram or Substack?
no, I'm on Substack, but where I found out about you is the High Wire last week.
Uh,
Oh, awesome. Great. So you're following on
So,
Instagram.
huh?
On Instagram, you're following
I'm
or
not
like the
on
video. Oh no,
Instagram.
okay. You just watched it and then found it. Okay.
I watched a High Wire and found you from there.
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was so.
Catherine, do you want us to email you with the next class and stuff or information? Like, or are
Yes.
you on our, okay. Cause if you put your email, if you tell me your email, I'll write it down and then I'll add you to our list.
Um, Star Song. Well, actually, the easy one is VT Loon, Loon,
Okay.
at protonmail.com.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So VT Loon, Loon at
Yeah,
protonmail.com. Perfect.
yeah.
Got it.
The email sort of says, obviously, I'm in Vermont.
Yeah, got it. Well, that's perfect. Yeah, we'll invite you to more stuff. So
Cool.
yeah.
I
Amazing.
did sign up.
Awesome.
So I got the notification for this uh, just before you
Yeah. Just
just
before we went
before you
live.
started.
Yeah. Well,
So
we are doing it every 2 weeks. So I will follow up and email you the details and
Okay.
send you kind of we have, regular content coming out, videos, different things, but the class is kind of fun.
Yeah.
awesome. Well,
And
thank
there's a
you.
recording so that I can go back
Yes,
with my
exactly. Yeah, we'll
knife
send out the
and
recording. Exactly. We'll
Yep.
send out the recording so you can see from the beginning.
And we'll include a recipe for the yogurt dip as well.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And thanks
Obviously, I
for
was
coming.
interested in that.
So this one was definitely more technique and practice. We will always be covering technique and practicing our skills in that way. The rest of them will be more cooking
Hmm.
lessons that where we'll be cooking alongside each other. Say we'll
Yeah.
make together like a meatball, and we'll be actively doing it on both sides of the camera. So
The the basic technique makes the rest of it feasible.
100%. It's so, yeah, it's just very often overlooked. And it's also to me, like I was sharing with Dell, it's like a rite of passage to learn this, to grow into a family or into a community and a culture where you learn how to take care of yourself. And to me, like we have to be including, culinary skills and kitchen skills and know-how and ancient wisdom. Um, as top in the priority of what we want to leave behind, the next generation. And I
And
think
that's not done anymore.
it's not, and that's why we're doing this. That's why we're creating this community, to kind of reclaim, what we're in danger of losing, and hold on to it and preserve it and make it sacred again.
So glad you came. So thanks for coming.
I wasn't expecting to be the only
Well, here we are. It's
audience.
fate.
Me
You
too.
got your VIP class.
We're gonna have to figure out the ideal time, for more people. But we're growing. The community is growing fast. So
I bet after
yeah,
last week.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was awesome. And yeah, thanks for coming. And I'll follow up on email.
All right, that's a wrap.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
Hey, it's me. Are you there? Hold on, I'm gonna stop it recording.